this is like the absolute perfect thing to pair up with doing this. That's nice. Wow, this really is something that's going to have a profound impact. I don't think it's going to be super bad. I think it's going to be weird for a minute. I think it'll remove a lot of control, wealth-based control, this magical breath of relief for the world. Okay. First of all, let's turn these pedals off. So, Happy Little Boards Show, episode 7? We'll see. Hopefully I got that right. I'm 90% sure. Episode 7. Anyway, welcome to the Happy Little Boards Show. I'm back. It's been a minute. It's been a good minute. What's new? So, quick update. As I had stated at some point on my social medias, due to childcare issues, I have ended up taking the next 8 Wednesdays and Thursdays off to cover summer vacation because my wife works usually like 10 to 12 hour days on Wednesday and Thursday, and that way I can be home to manage the fam and be here so that she doesn't have to be on call for that stuff as well. So it's a little nerve-wracking. However, it's going to allow me to get back into making these videos because I have been struggling very hard for time to make long-form stuff, even short-form stuff. Secondly, this little thing here, Chompy Club, Chompy Sampler. So I think I need to make a more in-depth video about this thing, because I don't want to like spend a whole hour just talking about what this is. But when I first started doing this, it was kind of annoying to me that there was no thing where you could, like a keyboard, where you could send sound out and then send sound back in and have it come through the speakers. And I started dreaming up what some keyboard like that might look like. And then, out of nowhere, one of the pedal companies that I love so much, Chase Bliss Audio, shares on their socials that they're teaming up with this company, Chompy Club, which is just like a husband and wife that invented this thing. And it was like a viral Kickstarter. And while it's not exactly what I was imagining in my head, this is like the absolute perfect thing to pair up with doing this. Like you can almost skip the pedal part and just, or you can definitely skip the pedal part and just play with this thing and have the same play / meditative effect without, adding things to it. So quick recap here is, so they did a Kickstarter that it kind of blew up, and Chase Bliss took notice. I think the owner, Joel, founder, owner, Chase Bliss guy, head honcho, I think he bought a bunch of them. But in any case, they got overwhelmed. And so Chase Bliss reached out, and so they're teaming up now. I think this is like maybe, so I think it was I want to say it was February when they announced this. So I'm assuming that it won't be too long, maybe by the end of the year or early next year, that this becomes a Chase Bliss product that you can order. But I think what's happening now is, in the meantime, they're helping them just pump out all of the back-ordered ones that they have to fulfill while working on, whatever the next phase is going to be. So I found one used, and I picked it up because I had to. And this will be the first time I'm incorporating it into this, and I'm excited to show you guys. So the long and short of this is it samples. It has a microphone, and it also has an input. And you can use the microphone or the input to get noise in here. And it has a bunch of slots, memory slots, to save stuff, to use these samples again. So you can store stuff you create on here. It has a built-in looper, which is super cool. I don't think I'm going to dive into that today. I'm just going to kind of use this as a keyboard. But it has a looper. It has a few effects built into it. You can change the pitch. You can adjust the starting and ending points of the sample you have, which you'll see me do because my samples I just recorded in a clunky fashion. That's one thing I love about it, is you can just off the cuff just record something and then kind of edit it easily to get it to be something totally different. And I still haven't mastered how to resample and save something that I edited. Whatever, it's just fun to play with, and it's very simple, and it's kind of built in the way of a kid's toy would be, which I also love, because there are other things obviously out there on the market, samplers, and if you know the OP1 by Teenage Engineering, it's a somewhat similar premise, but as you know from previous chats with me, I love just simple knobs, and I don't like the digital menus and stuff, and this is more fun and playful and exploratory, so it's great. So that being said, let me just give you the quick rundown of my setup in case you're interested. So it has an output that you would go to your recording device, like a laptop with a recording software on it, or a tape recorder up here, or you can just connect it to powered computer speakers or monitors or whatever. It also has a headphone jack, and it has the input for if you want to plug a keyboard in, which I did to sample some sounds. So I am going from that output into the pedal board, and then the pedal board is going out. And you don't have to do this. I did it for the sake of making the audio more clean in this video, because this little amplifier that I use is my monitor. It's not really ideal for this setup. So in any case, I have this little interface, which is what you would use to get the sound into your computer, hooked up. It's just USB powered. It's super simple. I think it's $80 to buy. And what that's doing is that's taking the sound from the pedal board in, and then I'm going from the headphone jack on that to the little line input on this amp to skip the guitar amplifier part. It just works better for clarity of sound here for this video, for me, for you to hear me and the stuff I'm doing. After I complete this loop in this episode, none of that stuff ends up involved. I just take this looper and I plug it into my interface for my computer and just record whatever the sound is that's in the looper straight in. So when you hear that, all you're really hearing is up to this point here where the looper is. None of this matters for your sound if you're interested in why I have what, because there's so many videos I watch where there's all these little technical things going on, and I'm always It'd be nice if I knew what the point of all this is, because sometimes I'm like, why don't you just do it this way? Or why isn't it more simple? Or it's off screen and you're like, how the heck are you even doing that? So if you are like me sometimes and curious about what's going on technically here, I'm constantly trying to figure out more simplified ways of setting this up. I think soon I'm going to experiment with kind of recording straight into like maybe a laptop and then using this as a monitor and see if we can get even clearer audio sound through this, but that's neither here nor there. What else is going on? We got pedals. I almost did a full JHS 3 series, but I got their oil can delay, and while it's such a wonderful sound, the speed of the repeats on that one aren't as slow as I wanted them to be for like messing around with like a meditative thing. So I'm in a future setup, I would probably pair that with another delay also, like the Dispatch Master from Earthquaker, just to give it more of a washy sound. So that was just my choice in the moment. So we have at the start, we're doing kind of a traditional chain here. Got the JHS 3 series fuzz, which is wonderful. You can get almost the full spectrum of fuzz sounds out of this one little $99 pedal. Next we have their 3 series chorus, which I've definitely had on here before, give you that like 80s sound. And then it also has a switch on to act as a vibrato rather than a chorus. And we have that Earthquaker Devices silos, which, man, this delay is just wonderful. This is the one we use to do that like self-oscillation thing where it like feeds back and gives kind of this just crazy cool sound. And then the JHS 3 series octave reverb, which is a nice reverb, and then it adds either an up octave or down octave from your signal into the reverb. It doesn't duplicate your dry signal, it just puts that in the reverb, so you can get these like organ like tones or these real like deep cave like space sounds out of it. So I thought that would be cool to add in. And as always at the end, the simple old school ditto looper, my old faithful buddy here that just allows to sit and play and make some layers of stuff. So that's the pedal board. Now let's get to this chompy sampler and get a sound going. So I think I had messed around and set something up, but we're just gonna start fresh. Let's see. So nice thing is too, is a lot of these buttons, you just click them and it just kind of resets what your settings are, so you can just get back to square one. This one's the effects knob. We're not going to mess with that except for this one right here, because it's what's called a high pass and low pass filter. So it's either going to take away low end or take away high end, or let the low through or let the high pass, depending on how you want to say it. So in order to just alter the sound of the keyboard that we're using, I will do that occasionally. These two change the starting and ending point of what we're working with. And then this guy's the pitch controller. This one they call the shift key. And when you hold that, it has a whole bunch of secondary functions. So let's get this is my first sample right here. So all that was, I can show you the little clip, but I just held the microphone up to my digital piano upstairs and hit a C note, and then it automatically puts whatever it records as your middle C right here, which is the one that's lit up. So see there's a pause between when I hit the key and when it's the noise starts. So that's where we can change the starting and ending point. So now it's automatically pitching it. It's actually speeding it up and slowing it down to change the pitch of it. So that's a very fun function of it. The other thing we can do is we can change how slow it starts to go. See, it like fades in, which I think is the way to go with this sound to get something cool for a bass layer. Let's get this delay. Let's put it on analog. Let's get it as slow as possible. Like that. Maybe we can play it low. Let's see what that sounds like with some delay and reverb. That's nice. Like I said, I can change. So this setting right here, this effect, it's like an EQ thing where it either takes away the high frequencies or it takes away the low frequencies, and it gets more intense as you go. So I'm actually going to take away some of the high stuff. There we go. So I think that's pretty cool. Let me make that not last so long. Some chorus just for fun. It's a pretty slow and subtle setting. Yeah, I'd say that's a pretty good starting point. I love that these JHS have the volume on them, so we can turn down some of the volume. So alright, let's get a loop going. Make sure my volume's up here. Yeah, alright. So as always, I'm just gonna push record. I'm gonna chat and breathe and just get some random notes. The other thing, actually real quick, that I wanted to point out too is these are numbered. And also, if it wasn't obvious, these keys here, these buttons, it's like keyboard keys. They represent the white keys and the black keys of a keyboard. But it's also numbered, and it's also like, it takes away that like feeling of, this is a piano and I don't know what I'm doing. So even if you want to, you know, paint by numbers here and just pick like 1, 4, 2 and 6 or something like that, and you can remember it numerically. You don't have to be a musical wizard of any way, shape, or form to do this stuff. As always, it's just to play and have fun. No pressure, no expectations. Just sitting here, messing with noises, and painting a picture with sound. So, I'll hit record. Why not start with 1? Just let it fade. Just give this nice little background layer. So, I'm curious if any of you feel similarly to me that you've been hearing more and more about AI stuff going around. It's like ominous music is perfect for this conversation. But there's quite a few, well, I shouldn't say quite a few. There's a handful of podcasts that I regularly listen to, and I've seen more and more conversations popping up. And then also, I follow a lot of music industry and just artists and all that on social media as well. And there's a lot of talk going on there with a lot about AI, and so it's kind of just led me to be curious about all this, and I'm starting to learn more and hear more, and it's just got me thinking about, wow, this really is something that's going to have a profound impact on more than we can probably imagine in a very near future. And I feel like, and again, this is probably just because doom and gloom is what sells on the internet, but I do hear so much talk about this stuff in a very negative way. And I just, after, it's probably been a month or more that I've really been digesting all that I'm hearing. And one of the ways they describe stuff like this, like what happened with the internet or with the invention of like machines in the industrial era, even like the invention of the printing press and like widespread knowledge getting published and printed and spread around, and literacy and all that. It's all stuff where before it happened, there's like this hallway of the future that you can see down, and it gets darker and darker, but there's always this there's always a corner that you can't see around. With stuff like this, it's just impossible, they say, to know what the future is going to be. And I find that very interesting when you think of that, and then you think of all the different things I'm hearing and all the conversations that are being had. Let me grab the next sample here. Let's see what this one is. That one's fairly loud. I'm going to turn it down a hair. And I think we should fuzz this one up. And you know what else we can do? So if I hold this and I turn this knob. Oh, actually, you know what? It was already there. I can make it go up an octave. There, that's freaking cool. I'm gonna make that higher. There we go, and we can actually turn the settings down there. Let's maybe take the delay. But anyway, so as while I fiddle with this and find some sounds, we'll turn the chorus off. We'll see what the fuzz sounds like on. We'll tame that. Whew, that is very loud. Actually, you know what? I'm going to use this as a volume, this chorus. Because I can... That is... sci-fi land. This is very fitting with the conversation. Anyway, so the conversations I'm hearing, it's just so funny to me because they're all centered around like job disruption or what's the best work to find, or how are we going to create wealth in this new world, or what productivity effect is this going to have, and the job loss. And that's also coupled with a lot of conversation about if all these jobs go away, and even if it makes it so we don't have to work as much anymore, and we would say theoretically have resources, like we wouldn't have to work as much because the resources would become cheaper. You understand? Like it would make us not have to work as much to afford to live. It's all centered around like capitalism still functioning normally. One of the first things that I thought when I hear about what AI can do, and if you don't know anything about it, it's worth starting to learn, because trust me, in some way, shape, or form, it's going to show up. It's going to be a disruption. I don't think it's going to be super bad. I think it's going to be weird for a minute. But I really don't think it's going to be catastrophic. But it's worth just hearing, go and do a little bit of research and just hearing what's out there in terms of what people are talking about. But one of the main things that the collective population is talking about a lot lately is how not great our system is functioning in terms of like modern capitalist economics and the markets and all the physical and mental health stuff that's going on. It's all very much related to this system we've built and how it is not necessarily functioning the way for the benefit of us all anymore. A lot of that is due to the monopolization that you see, and like it's just getting to the point where it's created a huge imbalance, let's say. I think that's the best way to say it. And now, for sparing you the long explanation, to me, from what I'm hearing, the first thing that makes sense that this hyper fast, intelligent system of all the data in the world, AI, one of the main things it could do for us is to come up with ways to reduce energy needs or produce energy more efficiently, resources that we need, to allocate food resources, financial resources in a democratic way that is done by a computer system that can't be greedy. It's just data, honest data, you know? And while I'm not saying that it should just be let run wild to make these decisions, because there does have to be certain considerations and oversight, obviously, but like, the first major thing I started to think about was, what if AI just eliminates the need for us to have money and dollars and wealth and assets the way we do now. Like, what if it could just the commoditization of things like knowledge and technology and your ability to access things that were out of your reach before. That's a lot of like what AI can already do. I can go on and create an app just by saying I would like an app that could help people take samples from their voice notes on their phone and open this app and have that sample be spread over a keyboard so that they could just touch the screen and it would play in key different versions of their sample, and it can have little effects and stuff. Like I could go on and just talk about this like I am right now to an AI system, and it will give me the code to create that app for my own personal use or to sell on the market or to give away for free. Research for things like will take second, like the medical advancements for health will be amazing. And this is all stuff where it was all kind of gate kept by the people that had the money to control it. I think it'll remove a lot of control, wealth-based control that capitalism has, modern. And listen, I understand what economy and market and currency is at its core, and I'm not saying that like that's a bad thing. It's just this end game system of modern world economy, this capitalist economy that we've created. It has allowed for people to buy control over things because they have hoarded wealth to allow them the freedom to get control over things that a lot of people would want, and take advantage of that to further increase their wealth and gain more control over more things. That's the negative part. And I really do. I just think that there's a very solid chance that around that corner that we can't see, that AI is going to democratize that system in a way that we never imagined. So, what happens in that world? Let me get a new sample going real quick here. That sounds good. Let me let's do delay but skip the reverb this time. Chorus so we can hear it. I'm gonna turn this. So again, I took off like some of the high-end things there. Let's bring up the mix. And I think that's a good. this might be my guitar string and it was a D instead of a C. I'm gonna go, what's this one? Ooh, hey, whatever that one is, that's cool, let's do that. I hit one of my little synthesizers. I had sampled some things from that. I have the videos, I'll throw them on the socials, and maybe I'll put them in the... Maybe I'll splice in a part where you can see the different samples I made. That's super cool. Alright, so that's good. Anyway, so what does it mean if, for some reason, all of a sudden, we were like, hey, with all this technology, we have, like, mastered enough electricity and figured out a way to, like, take care of, like, the environmental issues with energy production and made it super cheap, or made it free if it's solar, or whatever. Say that those issues get solved to a point where that collapses that market, where there's not a ton of money to be made there and we can make it free for everybody. That disrupts that whole industry, and all these software and coding, the whole technological revolution jobscape is wiped out. Things like plumbers and like electricians and doctors and artists, you know, they're still cooking. Hairstylists, you know, you can't replace that. Those are the things that are gonna not be disrupted. But there's a good chance that, let's call it 50 to 60% of the current job market gets disrupted by this. Let me record while I'm chatting. Get a third layer going here. So, I don't know if I said this. It's just chorus and the tape delay setting on the silos for this one. So, all of a sudden, all these people are jobless, but would probably have the resources, at least, available to, like, you're not gonna lose your house necessarily. You're not gonna, that's the point, is it may immediately allow for us to live more cheap. I guess I'm just trying to think of the best way to put it in context with, like, the current life we live. It would allow us to live with room and board and food and shelter and all that stuff. Like, the basic needs would become maybe almost free. So what happens then? And people don't have to go to work anymore. This whole population of people don't have to go to work. What happens? Because all I hear is that everyone would just be, like, instantly bored and almost suicidal because there's nothing to do. And again, I have not heard much conversation around the fact that there are so many things that people would love to do if they had more freedom. There are endless more things that people don't even realize that they would love to do because they haven't even had the chance to stop and think about it. Okay? Things like farming, or so going out in nature, exploring, learning, art, I guess, in a way, or even exercise, stretching, yoga, meditation, like all these things that people now kind of, there is a market for it, but it's all stuff where it's like time luxury things. even traveling, but just, or being with your family, whether it's your siblings, your parents, your children, or all of that, playing sports, all of these things that we do with our free time, like that category of stuff, what we do with our free time, those things would explode in popularity. And it's purely based on the fact that, like, our human connection is what we thrive from. And that, like, it may be weird for a minute, but I guarantee you we got like a little taste of it during lockdown, and the only major difference there was we were restricted from a lot of actual physical connection, but the time, the free time that we acquired and the freedom to explore things. Look at the explosion in just like bread making. Like, that's the kind of stuff that would happen, but we would get to share it with everyone because we wouldn't be restricted by, you know, a virus risk or whatever. And I don't necessarily think... That's a low one. So I don't think I have to, like, reach too far here to express that the benefit that would immediately explode exponentially from that human connection that definitely needs digital delay. Put high repeats, low mix. There we go. It would be crazy how much people would connect with each other. And also, there would be a disappearance of, like, the need for so much political involvement. Like, all of these areas now that are of control over the population, the struggle for control over the population, like that power, it would either be just remove, like the amount of power would be removed, or the ability to have power and control would be removed from the hands of the few at the top, especially where it's connected to just the amount of money you have. That would crumble, that amount of control. Therefore, it would almost be like we don't have to necessarily care about that as much anymore, because we would have our own control. And if you couple that with this explosion of all these healthy human connection things that are going on, I can't believe I'm saying this, because especially when it comes to having faith in the better side of humans, I'm always skeptical that the right choices will be made. But I can say it if I wanted to, that it's going to be a disaster and that I should expect the worst. But I can't deny the fact, and be honest with you, that my heart cannot find any reason to believe that it wouldn't become this magical breath of relief for the world. And I don't hear anyone talking about this, so I'm gonna talk about it. And also, it doesn't hurt or cost me anything to have a positive outlook on this. It doesn't. Yeah, sure, I do understand that I'm not going to think of everything, and I also am accepting of the fact that it's going to be disruptive, and there's going to be a period of uncertainty. Unprecedented times. We all love that phrase so much, right? But I just, in my heart, I'm like trying to not have faith in the world and what this could be. Because I think deep down, and you tell me if I'm wrong, but we all just want freedom to exist. Like, really think about what I mean when I say that. All your wants, everything you're striving for, which usually is wrapped around money. You don't want money, you don't want the things. You don't want power, you don't want control. What you really truly want is freedom to follow your heart as you feel it and have the time and space to follow that. And I challenge you to really look down inside yourself and ask yourself the question of, if you erase all of that, if you take all the BS away, if you wipe it all clean, and you're just left with your bare self inside, and your needs and wants, you want to feel happy and loved, right? You don't want to hurt people and feel hate. Like, that's not the instinct. We all are inherently good. That's what I'm saying. I believe fully. Very, very deep down. That we're built to follow love, for a very simplistic way of saying it. I'm pausing because I'm expecting this to come back in, and I don't want to double it up. Where are you? I lost any feeling of how long I've been going here. Which is good. That's the point. There it is. But I also don't want to make it, since I'm going to share this with you, I don't want to put anything crazy in there that's not nice. But so there's my pitch. AI. I'm just curious. Go, if you're not already learning about it, you probably should, because it's gonna be here fast. You know, it already is here, and I don't know. Be brave enough to have like a hopeful vision for it, and explore that and share it. You don't have to share it with me. Just share it. Talk about it. Like, don't be afraid to be positive about the future. It doesn't hurt. Like, I walk around all day thinking good thoughts, and never once is there like, you know, cop's not gonna pull me over for thinking and smiling. You know, you can also explore all the potential negatives too. There's nothing wrong with that either. But if you're gonna do that, if you're gonna explore the negative side of things, why not throw in some positives, right? What's this one? octave this up. Whoa. Oh, that one's my voice. That's what that one is. Ooh. So let's do the reverse. You can reverse it too. You can spin it backwards. Which is such a cool feature. That's cool. Okay. Sorry. But yeah, so I don't know. I want to, like, I think it's important to talk about the AI stuff. It's been everywhere in my feeds and podcasts and stuff, and I've gotten a ton of use out of it from learning stuff, like with ChatGPT, and I do understand, and I'm learning more about the difficult issue of the environmental, like it takes a lot of water to keep the servers and stuff cool, and we do have to be conscious of that. And I'm not using it for everything, and I'm certainly not using it to cheat at stuff, but for someone that wants to learn a lot about specific things, it has been amazing how much information I can gather very quickly. And like I said, I've even explored like asking for code for like an app or whatever, and it's crazy how you can program stuff just by kind of telling it what you want it to do, and it'll do all the coding for you, and it'll tweak it and tell you how to make it happen and bring it to life. I don't need anyone. You can just do it yourself now, and that's pretty cool. And you can ask it about, if you wanted to research frogs, you can get all the information in the world about frogs that has been recorded, sent to you to read over if you want, or it'll tell you a rundown. That's very cool. That's very cool too. So, hold on, let me... There we go. Switch that to the vibrato. How cool is that? That's just I just went into the microphone, and then here we have this crazy cool sound. So like you literally can just use your voice and make this awesome sample and tweak it and all that stuff. So let's get this going. Let's put our last layer on here. Yeah, so I just wanted to talk about that. It's talked about as disastrous, and it's also talked about as if our current financial world is secure and not going to be just money's always going to be a thing in the market and currency and all of that stuff, which is crazy because it has not been around that long. Basically what I'm saying is I think this could crash this paradigm of capitalism and money ruling the world and bring about a new Renaissance era, basically, where doing things with other humans for the sake of doing them together and connecting and learning and growing and exploring and imagining things, that's gonna be the new currency, is how outside of the box can you think with an idea on how to help your local community with an issue it's facing, or like I said, plumbers and stuff like that, and engineers in that way of like examining and coming up with out of the box ideas. Artists, like, I consider myself to be an artist. However, that same reason that I'm an artist and the way my brain works, my creativity and my critical thinking skills are tied together. Doing this makes me better at helping solve a problem of how to do something in my landscape job. Exercising your imagination and practicing art for the sake of art, for the sake of the joy of doing the thing, it increases our intelligence in an area that it has been shrinking for a long time, especially since smartphones. Like, people aren't bored anymore. People don't let their mind wander and drift, like that kind of thing. I'm from that last generation. I was born in 82. Like, I came from no internet and grew up with the internet. Like, the internet grew up and got older as the same time I got older. I was like almost always the target audience for the stuff that was coming out. I have a perspective here on this one. Alright. Oh, that's so cool. So it's our last layer. And I hope you hear this all and it gets your mind to wander and wonder and think of what the positive is that you hope for, because I'm sure you'll think of tons of great things that I wouldn't think of. And that's my point too, is like, imagine how many people don't even stop and let themselves have great ideas because they think that their great ideas aren't like valuable in some way, but like that's because we always compare it to like monetization. Listen, art and human connection and imagination, like music, painting, dancing, singing, play, all of that stuff existed like millions of years before money did. That stuff predates it all, and it'll long outlive it. Money is something we made up fairly recently, and it really doesn't freaking matter that much. It was a representation of value to simplify the bartering system. Instead of literally saying like, I'll give you these goods in exchange for those goods, it was like, this paper represents an effort that I made to obtain this paper, and that's how much effort I'm willing to exchange with you for your goods, you know? Like, that's the bare bones start of it all. We're back. That's an awesome loop. Just so cool. So really, like, it's just, you know, I think it's one of those where it's like, can we stop and think about why for a minute, like why we're doing all of this? Because, I don't know, man, a lot of what I'm talking about and what we're all forcing ourselves to do and be a part of is not, it's what we're fighting against that's taking away our happiness. It's not bringing happiness. Even the people that are phenomenally wealthy like the ones that won capitalism, you go interview them. One, the money is not bringing them any happiness. And the stress of maintaining what they've built sounds awful. They're out there talking about it. You can find all these interviews with people. And I can't tell you the amount of times I have listened to interviews with people that have made it. They got it. They got the money. They got the fame. They got the whatever thing they were seeking. They won the thing. And guess how that story always ends? Well, it turns out that really didn't bring me happiness. And what really brought me happiness was connection with other humans. Or they learned that instead of, whatever, making garbage pop songs, they decided to make their own weird music instead or something. I don't know. It's endless. There's no shortage of stories out there of people that will tell you that they got all the money they wanted and more, and it was never enough. And half of them ended up hitting bottom before they leveled out and got back to just I figured out that what I really needed was love and human connection and freedom to do things, And usually, once they get to that point where they get the freedom and they get the happiness, that they figure out the things that actually bring happiness, not that it's money or fame or all that stuff, the things we covet, or power or control. Usually they end up taking whatever that success is and they try their best to mentor or give back to help other people get to that place. So can we skip the misery steps? Can we start thinking about this ahead of time and being why are we chasing something that has been endlessly documented is not the answer? Just because we built the system. We can tear it down and rebuild something. I just don't... The answers are there. The answers are all there. And even the people that are grasping at the control to keep the frickin' ship going, even though it's sinking, they're just afraid that it's not going to be good if they let go of that control. That's all. But just give them a hug and help them out. We can all hang out together and say, whatever, man, I understand why you were chasing that. It makes total sense, but can we hug it out and work together and just all be happy and get along? I don't know. Maybe I'm an idealist, maybe I'm insane, but again, if I have to choose between thinking catastrophically and negatively or feeling in my heart a positive future outlook, then I'd rather be wrong and be hopeful than be right and be cynical and stressed out and hopeless and miserable. So let me know if any of this makes sense and rings true with you, if you feel it too. I don't know. Something's shifting. Like I said, I was usually the first one to be cynical and lose faith in humanity, but I don't know. It's not there anymore deep down. I think the future's gonna be alright. I really do. That's the whole concept of all these apocalypse movies and stuff, Shit gets wiped out. And then we get to restart and work together, and thankfully we can get to that point without some form of disaster. That's what I mean. We can skip the disaster part where we let it break and it's bad. And I think the tool that we could use to get to that place and skip the disaster part that forces us to get to that place is probably going to be this ultra intelligent AI technology that we have. I don't know. As they say, let me know in the comments. Hit me up. I'm super interested to hear anything in this realm of what I'm talking about that you have to say, because again, all I hear is AI is going to turn us into paper clips, or we're all going to be so bored that we commit suicide, or our health declines, or that it's going to set off all the bombs in the world, or there's going to be some awful virus or something created, or whatever. Like, there's endless disaster stories and theories out there. I'm looking for the hope theories. So, you got some, let me know. You want to call me crazy, go right ahead. Let me know. Let me have it. What do we got? In the meantime, I'm going to crank this. It almost feels like positivity and negativity intermingling together in a hopeful loop. So, I'm going to crank this up. Take a couple deep breaths. And I'm gonna go prep to edit this video. So, pleasure talking to you again. Happy to be back on it, and for real this time. There's gonna be more videos soon, but you know, bear with me. As always, time is currently tough to come by. So I do what I can, and I hope you've enjoyed this. If you want to support what I'm doing right now, the best thing you can do is, you know, like, subscribe, share, all that stuff. Comment, let me know, talk to me. I'm here, I'm a human, ready for the future. Let's work on it together, alright? See you guys next time.